Hey guys, and welcome to the Fish Room. I'm Rachel O'Leary, and it is time for a species spotlight. Now, with all the new species I have in the Fish Room, it was really difficult for me to pick which one to talk about. But I thought that this week we would talk about Bristlenose Catfish. They are exceptionally easy to source, super rewarding to breed, great algae eaters, and just a really versatile fish. So let's take a look and I'll tell you more about keeping and breeding them.
There are tons of species of Ancistrus, and there are even more that are specifically line bred aquarium color strains. This is just a standard modeled Ancistrus female. She's about 3 inches long, and they are fantastic fish for a few reasons. One is that they're exceptionally versatile with basically any community fish. They can go with small schooling fish like these ember tetras. They can go with small to mid-sized cichlids. They're relatively peaceful to each other as long as you have spots for the males to set up their breeding territory. And they're really just a fantastic fish. I mean, they graze almost constantly. They have these really super long guts. So they generally eat algae and plant matter. Most people really recommend adding wood to their diet as well, though they are not specifically wood eaters. They graze on the surface of the wood and get a lot of their nutrition that way. They're not as reclusive as a lot of other plecos, so you will see them in your aquariums. The largest I've ever seen them get is about 5 inches, with 4 inches being more typical. Now, this is a female, and you can tell that because she doesn't have the odontodes on her nose, or that big beard. I'm going to try and show you the adult male I have, but I think he might be on eggs. On that note, these guys are really pretty easy to breed, and with their obvious sexual dimorphism, with the males having the big bristles on their nose, it's easy to sex them from a relatively small size, usually at the least by 2 inches. Now, all you need to do to breed them is provide a cave, really. They like these pinch end clay tubes. They will utilize driftwood, they will utilize rock, any place that gives the male a spot to guard the eggs. What he'll do is he'll hang out in front of a cave like this and fan his fins trying to entice a female. He'll trap her in the cave. She'll lay about 75 to 100 eggs. He'll kick her out, fertilize the eggs, and then they'll hatch after about 4 to 5 days. At which point they're wigglers. They just kind of sit there until they absorb their yolk sac, which takes about a week, at which point they'll come out and start feeding just like the adults. These guys are super easy to feed, readily taking any sinking pellet, as well as blanched vegetables, gel foods, really anything. Very easy to feed. I prefer to feed them diet geared towards omnivores, with special attention to adding plenty of veggie diet. You can see the really visible odontodes that he has. They also have them on the front of their pectoral fins, a very brushy appearance. So if you have a pair of these, you can breed them in a 10-gallon tank. I prefer to keep them in a larger space because with those super long guts means a lot of poop. Plecos are known to be waste producers. So as useful as they are for cleaning up and eating algae and the fungus on our woods, they also produce an equal amount of waste. So it's really important to have good filtration. And they come from all over the Amazon basin, and there is a pretty decent amount of oxygen flow. In order to get them to spawn, if you're having a hard time and they're not going for you, what you can do is sort of mimic what happens in the wild, which means recreate a dry season. So stop doing water changes, let the water line drop a bit, let the total dissolved solids go up in the tank, feed them less, just like what would happen in the wild. And do that for a bit, and then basically mimic a rainy season where you feed them very heavily and do big volume water changes, often of cooler water. This increases the oxygen level, the water gets more dilute, the water depth changes, and in the wild that would mean that there's more spawning sites and a lot more readily available food for the fish. So it's pretty easy to duplicate in the aquarium environment. In the wild, they are seasonal spawners. In the fish room, they're really, once they start going, they really start going. You can quickly have hundreds of these guys, which requires a bit of space. The good news is that almost any fish store will take them for credit, and they're very easy to place with hobbyists as well. They can take a range of temperatures from 70 to 80. I find spawning at about 78 to be the best. You can see the odontodes here on his nose, and also the brushiness on his pectoral fins there. The females do not have that as prominently. And that's pretty much standard for all Ancistrus species once they hit sexual maturity. They can take a pH range of 5 to almost 8. These guys are exceptionally sturdy, exceptionally versatile, and really, really, really awesome for a community aquarium. Now you will, if you keep them in too small of a space and you have too many males, you may see them fight. So it's important to have enough caves and wood structures for them if you're keeping them in groups together. All in all, I think they're a really cool fish, and there are so many color forms and long fin versions that are being bred by hobbyists now that you can almost get any color or shape that you want for your aquarium. Personally, I prefer the standard fin and the more natural colorations, but there's definitely some really beautiful line bred types out there. All in all, I think this is a fish that is absolutely suitable for any level of hobbyist, as long as you're willing to keep up with your water changes and feed them appropriately. One of my favorite color strains, and one of the ones that's most popular on the market right now, are these super red Ancistrus. And they just pop in a Planet aquarium. They're really beautiful. As you can see, they show up beautifully on the plants. Anyway, I hope that helps. Make sure you stop by my Instagram and Facebook, hit the notification bell for YouTube so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and stop by my website, MsJinx.com, where you can find my upcoming speaking engagements, my current stock list, and information on all things nano. As always, let me know below what species spotlight you'd like to see next, and if you have any comments, suggestions, or questions.